What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to ComixKings, or welcome if this is your first time. As always, joining me, we got Bryce over here at Hillbilly Comics, and we have a special episode today of Creators Corner because we are joined by the super talented, super sweet Michael Conrad and Becky Cloonan, the creative team on the current Wonder Woman series from DC Infinite Frontier. We're super excited to have them. Thank you guys so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you guys.
For having us.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I'm a fan of the show, so having the opportunity to come and sit with you guys is really exciting for me.
Yeah, and we're super honored to have you guys on. This book has been fantastic, and I've been saying this to everybody that we know that we talk to. This is the first time I've ever pulled Wonder Woman, so go buy it. As someone who's never been a Wonder Woman fan, this is making me love the character, especially her kind of Game of Thrones aspect in Asgard, which I love about it. So again, thank you guys so much. And if you guys have not started reading this book and you do want to jump in, 3 issues in, so you can contact your LCS or you can pre-order the first trade on Amazon. The link is down below. Becky and Michael's Instagram are down below as well, so you guys can shoot them a follow. And let's just address the chat real quick. Give them a quick hello. We have the Magic Lasso in here. He's a huge, look at his username though. And then we have Alfred Page. And then we have Alfred Page in here. Good afternoon, good evening. I can't speak today, but good evening. And welcome everybody to the show. Alfred Page is also a writer. So that's pretty cool as well. He's a book with Second Sight Publishing, so definitely go check that out as well. We have my girl Sheena. It is no longer 420. It is actually 512. So you might want to change that. But anyway,
you see, the 420 means 4 divided by 2 is 2, right?
Yeah.
So 2 minus 2 is 0. So that's what it is.
Hey, there you go.
It's a math joke. I love it.
And I'm an engineering major, so we can talk math all night for all I care.
You got the wrong guy.
It's 420 somewhere. That's like the Jimmy Buffett song. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Hey, what's up, Cryo? I can't say long because our friend Manny is going to be on another show, so definitely going to be checking out that replay. And then what is up, Obi? What's going on? And we have Victoria in here as well, and Rudy. Thank you guys all for joining me. If you guys do have a question for Michael and Becky, you can leave it down below. It can be about Punisher, Batman, Wonder Woman, whatever you guys want. I'm sure they'll be happy to answer, and Midnighter if you guys are reading the backup stories, which you should. Which you should. They have been great. So,
thing to do.
How about you guys kind of talk about the positions you're put in, how you guys got started on this project, and how it kind of landed right in your lap?
You start.
Me start? I always talk too long, so if I'm talking too long, give me a tap, or you guys wave me off, do a little thing. Becky and I worked together on a single issue of Doom Patrol during Gerard Way's run, and that kind of came together through a series of magical coincidences that led to us writing. It's in the 3rd trade paperback, Weight of the Worlds.
Yeah, it was a one-shot, single story kind of thing.
Yeah, we wrote issue 5 of that, and it was my first time writing for DC. And we worked with a number of different editors on that, and one of the editors that was really critical to making that happen happens to be now the Superman, the Metropolis lead editor. And Wonder Woman kind of falls into that spot in the DC universe. So when they were putting together Future State, before Wonder Woman ever came to be, we got hit up about doing the Future State Midnighter stuff. And I think we showed up with such enthusiasm, and this was from the editor that we worked with for Doom Patrol. I'm missing the connections here. Anyway, we showed up. We came with a lot of gusto. We brought a weird, wild story to Midnighter, and that excited all the other writers from the Metropolis group. And I think that kind of communicated, this team might have more to offer. So they said, do you guys would you want to write a Wonder Woman where it's way in the future? And we're like, absolutely we would. so being the weird literalist that I can be sometimes, I thought they were saying like so far in the future that it was at the end of time. So that's kind of what I pitched to Becky, and what we batted back and forth was what turned into Immortal Wonder Woman, which if people didn't read it, it's just a 2-part series in Future State.
Yeah, with art by Jen Bartel.
Art by Jen Bartel.
Yes.
I think it's brilliant. I suggest you track it down. And then we were doing we're doing like a convention online for Brazil, and we had talked about like other Wonder Woman ideas and this and that. And right before the convention went live online, the editor who was like hosting it was like, yeah, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll talk about the book, and then we'll announce that you guys are writing the Wonder Woman ongoing, starting with issue 770, blah, blah, blah. So I'm sitting there trying to be cool, but I just found out that I got like my dream job, like writing an ongoing series for DC. Like I was like, I'm here, I'm at the dance. So the whole interview, I was like rambling worse than I normally do. I was just like, I was beside myself. The minute like it stopped being live and we shut the computer, I was just like, Becky, are we writing fucking Wonder Woman? And she was like, I think we're writing fucking Wonder Woman.
Except I don't cuss.
Except she doesn't cuss.
She doesn't cuss,
No.
but you cuss way
No, I
too
do.
much.
I handle it enough for the both of us.
That's true.
There you go.
So yeah, that's kind of how it came to be that we're writing Wonder Woman. It was such a strange and unexpected thing, and it happened right at the beginning of COVID when I was at my most depressed. I was feeling like, oh, I'm gaining a lot of traction. I was talking with a bunch of small publishers and working on things. And COVID happened, everything screeched to a halt, and then this magical email from Jamie Rich showed up, and boom, things were happening again. And I felt alive.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a
There you
strange
go.
time.
Stars just align sometimes.
They really do. They really do, you know. And Becky obviously has a history with comic book writing, with Punisher being the first female to win the main Batman title. So, like, this Wonder Woman story is so out of pocket, you know. It's more like it's like not what you would expect, considering how Wonder Woman is such an iconic character, and now she's kind of stripped of everything that we know of her. Right. So, Becky, you can give us like a little bit more about the creative process in writing the ongoing series and how you guys figured out where you wanted to go putting her in Asgard.
That, you know, when you start on a character like this, a lot of times you think like, what can I do with the story that will be different from other people who came before? Like, what kind of themes are we going to work with? What, and Diane has been so many different things in her 80-year career. That she's been a spy, she's been like a goddess of war, she's been a goddess of peace, like she's been all these different, you know, different things, part of the JLA, like there's nothing that she hasn't done. So it's trying to find like, what road do you want to take with this character who has infinite potential to be anything. And I think the thing that makes her so great is that at her core, she's always Wonder Woman. Like she has the same values. Her character doesn't change, even if so much about her does. So she's very versatile. And I think that is part of the very exciting thing about working on Wonder Woman. And it's also part of the very difficult thing, because she is so many things to so many people. And you don't want to disappoint fans of Wonder Woman who have this idea of who she is. So it's like trying to stay true to these core tenets, but also breathe a new life into it, but not so new that you're going to alienate people, but not do the same thing that other people have done before. So once you figure that out, it's easy, really.
It's totally a cinch. It's just there's like 8 different types of Wonder Woman fans, and trying to find that thing where you thread the needle for all of them. It's impossible.
Yeah, everyone's going to want something else. So some of it is trying not to worry about what you think people want. Put that out of your head completely if you're going to write a story. But at the same time, I'm going to contradict myself. Telling a story is all about storytelling and communication. So you want to always think about how people are going to feel when they read this book. How are they going to feel when they close it, when they put it down? Like, what are they going to be left with? And that's part of going into a book, like what I always think about is like, what do you leave people with after you're done?
Yeah, with a character that's so part of our cultural DNA, if you know nothing, if you've never read Wonder Woman, you still have a strong image of what your version of Wonder Woman is. It could be based on like just stuff you heard, a bit of a cartoon you saw, a movie that you watched.
The old TV show, The
Yeah.
Carter.
So it's different from writing other stuff. We're the stewards of modern mythology. It's really a huge pressure and an honor at the same time.
Yeah, I think part of putting her in Asgard was a lot of fun just because it's, she has all this connection with Greek mythology and the Greek gods, and that's a lot of fun. But it's been done so many times that, of course, like you want to do it. If you're doing Wonder Woman, you like want to show up at like Olympus, like check out the Pantheon. What's going on, guys? But with Asgard, it was kind of like a way to put her in a new place while still keeping that like mythological feeling to the story. Have it be like an adventure, like almost a fairy tale. Put her against things, like have her confront parts of herself that, if you're a new reader, you might not be aware of these different facets to her. And another thing that's great about it is we are able to bring in all these characters that act as great foils for her. So you get to learn more about her by the way that she interacts with these other characters.
Ratatosk, 100%.
I love it. Every time I see a squirrel now, I'm like, oh. It's Ratatosk.
Which and as a totally new reader for Wonder Woman, like issue 770 was the first Wonder Woman comic I ever opened.
That's cool.
What
a neat thing.
Yeah.
And you're welcome.
No, it was great. It was great. And having her in this new situation, especially with the amnesia aspects, it's really giving new readers like me a chance to get to know the character as she's getting to know herself. And so it's a really interesting.
That's like a weird old chestnut that people pull out all the time, is like, oh, let's wipe their memory and do all this stuff. For us, it just really felt like it made sense given for people who were following death metal, which kind of led into this. During death metal, she basically offered herself up as like as a sacrifice for the multiverse. And then in Infinite Frontier Zero, which we've got a small piece in there as well, it kind of shows her letting go, and it's her moving on. But to me, I didn't feel like it would not be traumatic. It has to be traumatic. All change is traumatic. Yeah. That's like one of the great truths of life is that like change happens because of painful, traumatic things. A bad breakup might lead you to be a better boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever type of friend in the future. So after great trauma, it makes sense to me, especially on a metaphysical tip where it's your spirit out there in the multiverse. Maybe you wouldn't be burdened by some of the baggage that you're carrying on Earth, especially if you end up in the wrong afterlife. If you grew up Jewish and you end up in like the Mayan afterlife, you would feel a little bit out of place, and it might be traumatic in some way for you.
Right. Well, like 100%, and I think that's what's great about Wonder Woman right now is for new readers, this is great on bringing in new people to resonate with what she's going through. And then obviously as we get along with this interview, we're going to kind of dive into like the newer issue, which is right behind me, which came out today. But we do have a question from the Magic Lasso, biggest Wonder Woman fan that I know. He says, I'm a long life Wonder Woman fan, and he's enjoying the story. He has to know, will Siegfried, I hope I pronounced that right. This book has Siegfried, so many characters I don't know how to pronounce. So
it's all good.
We call him Siggy.
Okay, will Siggy stay in the Wonder Woman cast after this storyline? Ignore his last sentence, though.
We are all big fans of Siggy here, not just us, but in the editorial too. So I think there's
top to bottom at
Team
DC.
Siggy.
Everybody loves Siegfried.
We'll see what happens.
How
to him.
Siegfried is going to make sense in the greater DCU, and what kind of role he'll have in Diana's life. I don't know about that. We'll see. Like, I don't want to give that away, but we didn't create him just to throw him away.
Yeah.
Right.
He's
He was
definitely a
always,
welcome addition.
Right.
Yeah,
So
he's a lot of fun.
right. So no Elektra treatment created just to throw away.
Oh my!
Oh,
I saw another question before that on the screen. I don't want to skip anybody.
Yes. This is Victoria. She's all the way from Australia, so she is up. She's watching this interview. She says, "Did you guys talk to Akira Tamaki about what she was writing prior to you guys taking over?"
No,
We did
not. At all. We love Mariko. We've spoken to her recently about something else.
Ooh, was it Huntress?
Free. I'm not going to say what we were talking
Cannot
to her
confirm
about.
nor deny.
Cannot confirm nor deny, but I loved that Huntress story.
Yeah,
She's so good.
We're big fans
She's
of
a
hers.
phenomenal storyteller. Total heavy hitter. Like, everything she does will pack an emotional punch. We didn't talk to her. We didn't talk to any other creative teams about their previous Wonder Woman runs. Uh-oh. Someone's in trouble.
You guys are next door neighbors. I'm sorry. All the way out there. You know what?
One filmed
Brendan,
Lord of the
how's it out
Rings and
there
one
in,
has giant spiders.
Yeah, how's that going?
How's it out there in sunny Canada?
We do have someone from Canada. That's our guy Travis, who also calls Bryce Guy Gardner.
I haven't figured it out yet, but
I like Guy Gardner, so
Hey,
whatever.
yeah.
You're the first person I've met to ever say that.
I like bowl cut. He used to wear these like a pot collar bowl cut. I love it. I'm about it.
There you go. So how has your work and relationship been with Travis Moore? With your scripting, like, whenever I interview artists, I like to say how much influence do they have on what's going on in the book. So with you guys here, how much influence does Travis Moore have? His art has been
Travis. It's just terrible. It's
my gosh.
Horrible.
Is he in the chat too? Is this he?
Travis is a dream come true.
Yeah.
He is every writer's dream artist. He can tell a story. He knows exactly it's like he knows what shots to pick before you even write it down. And his storytelling is so solid. His characterization is so on point. The chemistry he brings to the characters, part of the reason why people like Siggy is because of Travis. Travis draws him with, there's so much chemistry between the two characters, and it's not something every artist can do. Some artists, they have different skill sets, but Travis is super well-rounded, and he also nails characterization and chemistry really well between the characters. So we can write our little tushes off and try to make these characters speak to each other and have a relationship, but it's up to the artist to be able to bring that to life. And Travis really does a great job. And we have to also talk about Tamara Bonvillin's colors.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
I love Tamara Bonvillin.
She's okay, so going back to Doom Patrol, when we were pitching that, the main reason why I was can I draw this issue? Was because Tamara was coloring it, and I was I just want to be colored by Tamara. I don't even drawing Doom Patrol would be super cool, but the main reason was she's got to color me at least once in my life before I die.
Oh yeah,
and, if she didn't if she couldn't color the Wonder Woman, I would have thrown a tantrum. I would have stomped my feet around the house and gotten angry.
Yeah.
For the record, Travis isn't leaving Wonder Woman. He's not leaving Steven. Not yet anyway. We do have a couple of issues that are going to have other artists on them coming up in the next couple months. Part of the reason for that is because we're going into double shipping for a little hot second, where there will be two Wonder Woman books on the rack from this creative team. And that's way too much to ask anyone to do. Yeah. And we knew this schedule going in. So we crafted the story around knowing that we'd have different artists for certain issues. So, and you're going to be blown away. The other artists, you're going to miss Travis. We're all going to miss Travis, but there's going to be you're going to be legitimately blown away. It's not going to feel phoned in or weird or anything like that. It's going to feel awesome.
Yeah.
The other reason for that is it's Wonder Woman's 80th anniversary this year. She turns 80 in October.
With issue 780, I think.
No.
Is that not the one?
I don't know. No, 780 I think is just like when we were up. Maybe it is. I don't know.
I don't know.
Either way, there's going to be like a whole lot of fanfare around like her birthday. So there will be like a, every, like, here's like an extra Wonder Woman like annual, and here's like a 80th anniversary type of thing. So there's a lot of Wonder Woman going on right now, and Travis can only do so much. He's but one man.
He's only one man, but his art has been phenomenal, and the color palette as well has been so vibrant, and it's been really fitting. Like, it's really been fitting this situation, right? With everything that's going like dark and even like in the light of Asgard. It's phenomenal. Like, my only complaint is there are too many characters that I can't pronounce, and that's just okay. But and I can live with that.
You're telling me you didn't have a working knowledge of Norse mythology going into this, Brandon?
I mean, I've read Thor, but
Thor is one of the most fun characters to write. Not Marvel Thor.
You're Thor.
Our Thor he's such a jerk.
Is Donnie Cates still writing Thor?
Yeah, Donnie Cates is writing Thor, and that book's just on a hiatus right now because Donnie just finished up the arc with Donald Blake as like the centerpiece, and he's trying to wrap up Venom, which got delayed. So inevitably, that's gonna get delayed as well.
Donnie's our friend. Donnie lives like right up the street from us, so it's kind of funny that like he's like right over there thinking about Norse mythology, and we're right here thinking about Norse mythology. So in a way, like, when we sit down for coffee, it's kind of like a crossover.
The crossover, pun intended.
Oh, wow.
Oh, there it goes, yeah.
I think Donnie's more focused on the next godlike character he's going to bring into the Marvel Universe, but he's definitely fantastic.
Like, he swings big.
And this is our friend Travis, and yeah, he's thinking I'll talk about him, but that's okay. Magic Last say she looks pretty darn good for 80.
Yeah.
There we go. I mean, she is immortal according to this book. How we kind of talk about her kind of memory loss, and I don't want to spoil what the reveal was in this latest issue because it did come out today, but kind of how you guys are weaving in her going back to her roots versus what she's battling inside her head. They're looking at each other. They're just like,
because I did the last one.
That's
really, don't let me dominate for too long. I think so. Anytime you start writing a new character, there's like a feeling out period. I showed up having a really strong idea of who I think Diana is, but I almost like I wanted to push back against my own comfort in feeling like I really understood her and try to understand like the greater picture. There's lots of holes in my game as far as who Wonder Woman is and what she means to a variety of different people. As a guy, I've got a different relationship to her than a female might, or than a non-binary person might. So I wanted to connect to as like a Carl Jungian, Joseph Campbell, like hero with 1,000 faces. Like, what does this mean on like a really big mythological symbolic level? So kind of taking away her self-awareness was an opportunity to show, like Becky had touched on earlier, all the stuff about flying, feats of strength, whipping people, tying people up,
the fun stuff,
smacking people with weapons and stuff. That's all secondary to a core morality that is undeniable. And we all know, like, Batman's code, like, I'm not going to kill anybody. Or, like, Superman's code, like, I'm going to be super good no matter, because I'm glad to be an American or whatever. With
Kryptonian American.
Yeah. With Wonder Woman, she's so much like any good person you've ever met is like, I want to do well, but there are certain circumstances where I'm not gonna do well, or where I might even like take a life. Like I'm a pacifist. I don't want to harm anybody, but there's certain circumstances that in which I would take a life, and I don't think it would like change my moral compass at all. So we wanted to kind of establish that like Wonder Woman's rules are different from Batman and Superman. She isn't guided by like an aspiration to something. She is the thing. She's a self-actualized thing. She isn't like I don't want to kill because I don't want to cause problems like what happened for me in Crime Alley back in the days. No, she's a self-created, self-actualized thing, and that's like regardless of who you are as a reader or as a fan, that's like the one core truth about Wonder Woman that like I think we can all agree on.
Right.
Yeah.
And
that's where she's kind of different from the rest of the DC universe too, is she was born for the role that she's playing.
right.
Where others were bred into it.
Right. That's a good point too. I was also going to relate this to the Umbrella Academy and the way that Gerard Way was able to weave in who the characters were before their powers really like got established and put to the forefront. And I think that's very important when you're dealing with a character like Wonder Woman, or when Kelly Sue DeConnick was doing with Aquaman. For those of you who have not read that, is really trying to break down who that character is at their core and getting people attached to the important qualities, you know, because even though she is smashing people's heads, and I mean, this is Asgard, but she's not doing it in the way that you would necessarily think, like when she's with the Justice League and it's like alien after alien versus Darkseid every 2 years versus no shade whatsoever, but a little bit.
Part of seeing her in Asgard, which is great. I mean, we were really lucky to get Diana after she died because, you know, there's like a wiggly morality in the afterlife. You know, what are consequences when people get resurrected every day? You know, so there's different parts of her personality that she's like able to, like we're able to explore through her being in this strange spot. You know, like we couldn't do this story back on Earth, so.
Right.
You know, while we're here, we're going to take advantage of it to the fullest.
Right. And I also do want to address this question because we haven't even started talking about Dr. Psycho being in the book, which he is. So if you guys know him from the Harley Quinn show, awesome. Lazo says seeing Dr. Psycho in the last issue was an unexpected treat. It was 100%.
Absolutely.
Will we see more established characters from her rogues in future storylines, or are you familiar with the underused villain? I don't know how to pronounce that. Osira.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned the Harley Quinn show because I didn't know that he was in that cartoon. It's a cartoon, right?
Yeah.
I know. I've never seen it. I was just a Dr. Psycho fan, and I was like, when we were doing the initial meeting, I was like, listen, there was this old Wonder Woman villain named Dr. Psycho, right? And they're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah,
there.
Michael.
Yeah, he's in this show over here that's like really popular.
You know that.
You didn't know that he was having a renaissance right now.
I didn't know. So that's just like a happy coincidence that the world knows about this character that I thought was like my weird little freaky friend.
So now he's everyone's freaky little friend. So now you have friends who think that as well.
Yeah. He was a lot of fun to put in there. And yes, we are. You're gonna like expect to see more of Diana's rogues gallery. Expect to see. You know, we want to bring in.
That's all we're gonna say about that.
There you go.
We don't want to
spoil anything, but like. We got deep cuts. We got slashes.
Plans.
We got some really interesting stuff coming up, and I don't know that we'll be able like right away to show everything that we want to show, but we want to get to a lot of these different fandoms and these weird. Wonder Woman's got the weirdest rogues gallery of all time.
You think Spider-Man's villains are weird? No, you haven't.
I'm so
sorry.
I'm so excited to get to some of these like real goony ones that don't make any sense. Because one of my favorite things, I love Grant Morrison. one of my favorite things about Grant Morrison is how he can polish a turd like nobody else.
There we go.
He'll take like a
Love the
weird little
analogy.
character no one ever cared about.
Damian
and,
Wayne.
like, make him shine. I love it.
You
I'm
said it.
loving
Hey, we were all thinking it. I just said this one out loud, you know?
I've always loved Damien. What are you talking about?
I loved him once Peter Tomasi picked him up. I feel like if we keep this kind of tease going, Magic Glass is just gonna like
He's
guess
just getting
it.
a bit the nail on the head at
He's
one
just like-
point.
But
I don't know about that egg foo though.
Oh.
I don't know that egg foo's ever coming back.
Uh,
That's
that one might
Becky,
be
but
left
we're
in
not
the
gonna
past.
we're not gonna be
Probably
talking
one
about
of the-
Spider-Man today because that's kind of a struck a nerve for me on our Friday show.
Probably more likely to see Shaq Fu than we are.
Which-
actually.
The foo schnickens though.
But you guys were teasing a new artist. Well, not a new artist, kind of like a different artist to change the pace a little bit. Can you guys reveal who that is here, or is that something you guys wanted to keep under wraps?
Cannot. We got to keep it under wraps.
Yeah,
Gotta keep it
I
under
don't-
wraps.
I don't know that it's been solicited.
It hasn't
yet.
been solicited, but you know, we have a lot of people saying like, "Oh, how long can you keep this Asgard stuff up? Like, how long is this story going to be able to hold, you know, its shape?" We from the beginning we had a big arc planned for this, and this Asgard stuff is just the beginning. And knowing that we were having to get different artists for like the middle bits, we wove that into the story. So there's been a lot of like subtle crafting that we've done, and hopefully it's all going to pay off. Like we're really excited about what we've done here, and I think I want to tell people just relax and enjoy the ride because we're taking you on a magical journey.
Here we
It's
go.
funny. It's funny seeing how some people.
We'll get nervous. Like, how long can they keep this up?
It's like however long I want, boo.
I mean, it's
Like, how,
Exactly.
It's my story.
like, it's gonna be all right. Don't worry about
Yeah,
it.
it'll be fine.
In
Everything
the
is
wise
gonna be
words
fine.
of Kendrick Lamar.
It's yeah, exactly. I think we understand what we can get away with, but we're
Right.
always gonna push it like a little bit further.
Right.
The funny notes that we get back and forth with our editors, like they're constantly being like, "Hey, could you tone this down, or could you change the wording here or there?" Because we would have alienated everybody by now if it wasn't for our kindly editors, Brittany and Bixie over at the DC offices. They have really kept us from just going full tilt boogie, like off the rails and into the woods.
Right.
But it's always going to be weird, you know. Like that's the only type of story I find compelling is something unexpected, kind of twisty and fun, and
That's so much a part of Wonder Woman comics, though, is like there's a weirdness, like a surreal quality to the stories. Like they are fairy tales in a way. They're just like stuff will happen and you'll just be like, what is going on here?
Just
I
like
mean,
kind of out of left
Exactly.
field.
yeah. So I think keeping that in there is like what helps keep this story like a little fresh and a little fun.
Right,
kind of,
right.
like,
Like
in the
Having-
realm of bizarre, you know?
Right. And I
Exactly.
think oh, go ahead, Bryce.
I was gonna say it's kind of like having Wonder Woman without some weird mythology. That's almost like writing Doctor Strange as a spy for the CIA,
As,
not
as
using
a
that.
regular doctor.
instead of Doctor
Which that was done.
Doctor
Doctor
Strange
Seriously?
would
Oh
be-
my-
Mark Wade did Doctor Strange,
the
It's
Surgeon
like
Supreme.
the
yeah.
Surgeon Supreme, but it was, and I love Mark Wade. Probably half my collection is Mark Wade, but that series was just the worst Mark Wade story I've ever read, and I love Mark Wade. I wanted to love it because it's Doctor Strange. Almost knocked over
It
my
just
drink.
wasn't strange.
It just wasn't. It just.
Range
It,
enough.
it just didn't do it. Well, Kev Walker's art didn't help out any, but that's okay.
He's
From the
going
hip.
for it.
No, like for me, it's like if you want me to hop off a book, just put Kev Walker on. I'm gone, but that's okay. I'm completely okay. And Obi says, is there an issue number in your head? How long do you guys want to keep playing this out? Like if you had an ideal number, how long would you write Wonder Woman, or what is like kind of the time frame that we would expect you guys to be on this book for?
I thought it was about this storyline. For this storyline, we know when it's gonna end.
We usually plan storylines about in trade chunks. So
Yeah.
usually it'll be like a
Yeah.
5 or 6 issue chunk for each like segment of the story. And then you try to plan out stories that will arc for like 1 or 2 or 3 trades. and then kind of segue into something new. But you always want the stories to kind of tumble into each other. We've pitched years worth of material to our editors, and they are like, they like it, I guess, which is cool.
No, they like it. She's got to be cool about it. But when we talked about it, they were hyped. So once you got the editors on board, that's like part of that's like the good important spice. The big piece that you contribute to the dish is, sales and interest and press. These three things are critical fact. Obviously, DC is owned by Warner Brothers, which is owned by AT&T. They want to see money. They want to see that these comics aren't losing money. So I don't know. If people don't buy the book, then we won't write it anymore for sure. Like, they'll tell us stop.
Don't tell people that.
So buy the book.
Well, okay, so
buy this book.
Okay, so we have a bunch of people in the chat right now. If you guys are enjoying this story, if you haven't read it, just go buy it anyway. Pre-order it. Contact your LCS.
What really helps too is like word of mouth. Word
of mouth, right?
Telling your friends about it, that really helps.
Yeah, tell your friends, tell your neighbors.
Helps.
I think it's doing, like I say, I think it's doing really well. I think if it keeps doing the kind of numbers that it's doing, we've got a good long run ahead of us. That's what we're shooting for. Is just there's so much to explore. Yeah. There's a lot to get done, and like I say, we're hoping to get to all of it. We've got a lot of other stuff going on too, so it's all story, it's all comics, baby.
Yeah, and the idea is that you want to tell a compelling story, and the people who read it, and then you want to leave them with something like worthwhile. And you want to leave the character in a good place for the next person who comes along. So that's all part of when we pitch ideas. Like, these things are things that you always think about.
Right, 100%. And speaking on like this run, right? So right now we kind of see her. Obviously, she's in Asgard, but the whole plot is she's trying to prolong Ragnarok to where it's not going to happen, and part of that is going to visit the Valkyries. How would you guys talk about what happened in this issue that came out today? I know I read it, Bryce read it, but how would you guys give us your rundown on what happened in this issue? Because I don't want to give it away.
Okay.
I was really excited about this issue first because there's a barfing snake. That was a lot of fun. I was really excited that we got to like have a little Nidhogg in there. Actually, North mythology is weird. It's so bizarre, and it's like there's not one version of it. There's like a billion different versions. They're all kind of different, So Siggy, our Siggy. He has like so many different variations in mythology. Like, his deaths are different, his powers are different. Like, there's through lines that he killed this dragon Fafnir. That's a big thing. Who he
that's
married.
A no-brainer. Everyone knows.
Thing. So there's all these different things about his character that like you can stay true to in the story, but there's so much wiggle room when it comes to like interpreting these characters and the things that they've done. So that's a lot of fun. But anyway, barfing snake. That's what I was talking about.
Barfing snake.
Right.
What is it? What number is it?
It's 772.
772.
772. In 772, we find we open with Diana has, in the previous issue, she found out that there's this giant serpent that lives under the world tree, Yggdrasil, which is a member of the Parliament of Trees, which you'll recognize from Swamp Thing. So that was for me lots of fun. Mythology. Right from Norse mythology, yeah. She's seeking Fortress Valkyrie because the Valkyries have stopped collecting the dead from the battlefield in Asgard, which is that's their normal. Is every day they'll go out, fight, die, come back again, party, and go do it again. But certain folks haven't been coming back from the battlefield, so Wonder Woman sets out to figure out what's going on with the Valkyries. During the course of this, of course, she finds out that Yggdrasil, the World Tree, is dying as well. She's trying to figure out these two different mysteries at the same time.
Yeah, if Yggdrasil dies, the roots will rot. Nidhogg will escape, and that is what starts Ragnarok, which is their apocalypse.
Yeah.
So it's going to end the whole Asgard sphere.
Meanwhile, she's found out that Dr. Psycho is projecting himself psionically through the multiverse and creating these magical weapons within Asgard. So,
Right.
yeah,
she hides in an egg. This is just normal stuff. You hide in an egg, get swallowed by a giant snake, and you hope to find the key to Fortress Valkyrie. It's normal.
Right.
It's a normal.
Yeah,
That's Saturday night for
Tuesday.
me.
yeah. I was gonna say your Saturday night, my Sunday morning. Before football starts. But it's
the
awesome.
Fun thing about this is whenever Diana dies, it's almost like a Groundhog Day type of thing. You die, you come back, you die, you come back. Because that's just the nature of Asgard. Everything's so cyclical. Every time she dies, she hears this voice. And a fun thing to do in this issue was revealing who the voice was.
And that was so cool.
That was
and
great.
For all you guys, it's a character I haven't seen since the New 52's Justice League Dark, and that's all I'm saying. We have a buddy in the community who's a huge fan of this character, so you can go bug him once you figure it out. And tell him to read it.
Tell him to read it.
You might be able to figure out who it is just by the silhouette.
Some people predicted it. Some could tell from the lettering or from the silhouette, but either way, I don't care about you.
You wanted it to be cool anyway.
It was.
It was cool. I would have never put those two characters together in this. Like, I would have never connected them to be in a book together.
I mean, I would. It's Justice League Dark, but
I had a friend from another comics news agency hit me up and be like, "You really did it. You son of a bitch, you did it." Because I've gone on at length about how much I love this character. And this is much like the question about Siegfried earlier. This character is going to stick around for a bit too.
Yeah.
So what's good?
It's exciting. It's cool because it's a character that it had to make sense. Someone who can act as, I think in any, besides the amnesia kind of trope, there's the trope of when you're in the afterlife, you get someone who shows you around. It's like your guide to the afterlife. This character, Ratatosk almost fills that role too, but this character acts as for afterlife guide.
Right. And
which was a lot of fun to yeah.
And for anyone wondering who Ratatosk is, it's the squirrel that's kind of like Becky just said, her tour guide in Asgard. Kind of I feel like Ratatosk is like Lion Cat in Saga, like that conscience, that animal consciousness just telling you what to do. For those who haven't read Saga, just read it.
Only unlike Lion Cat, Ratatosk is usually the one lying.
No, I was going to say, he always tells the truth.
But Ratatosk is like that kind of character that just you love, but you also don't want to ruin every moment. So I think bringing this character in and not having Ratatosk completely just chime into that moment was awesome. I'm like, oh, that's perfect writing.
We were nervous. I was nervous about Ratatosk. We were nervous about Siegfried. There's people who are like Wonder Woman and Steve or Wonder Woman and this. They got they get these bizarre, not bizarre. I guess that's part of being a fan.
I like shipping just as much as the next person.
I didn't even know what that shipping was.
Look, I ship all day, every day.
Hey, as long as it's not a She-Hulk and Juggernaut situation again, I'm okay with it.
Oh.
So we took chances, and so far it's working out. Somebody was asking about advice for writing. Is your name Obed?
Yes, Obi.
That's a cool name. That's already you're winning. If you got a cool name, that helps you become a writer. I really believe that. Have a name that works. My name's Michael. It's I would never write a character named Michael. That's boring.
You'd have never written the Lost Boys.
I would have never written the Lost Boys, which would have been a big loss to the world. Anyway, my advice is to read a ton. Read stuff that you don't even that you don't like, but try and understand what the writer was trying to get you to take from it, because it worked for somebody if it was able to get published. Even stuff that wasn't able to get published, fan fiction, stuff like that. Read it and try and not just think about the characters, their motivations, the narrative arc, all the technical stuff going on there, but think about what the writer was actually trying to do. and then figure out what you would do different. Also, grow up really poor, and don't own complete runs of anything. Own, like I was talking earlier about before we started recording about, I had this one Punisher issue that was like right in the middle of a run, and I had to imagine what came before and after that, and that was like the defining characteristic of my comics collecting as a young person. I never owned the whole story of anything, so I constantly had to make up my own story to contextualize and to make it work.
I think
And don't just read comics. If you want to be a comics writer, like, you gotta read like regular ass books too. Like, it's just good. It'll help inform your command of the language, how stories are presented in different ways. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
Pay attention to film. People don't want to compare comics and film. I think that's hogwash. I think they're their own two mediums, but pay attention to cinematography too, because it's going to help you like understand certain things. Like, what's it, the 180 rule?
Yeah, 180-degree rule. There's a lot of different things visually. I think if you're a writer and you want to write comics, one of the most important things you can do is to draw a comic. Even if you say you can't draw, that's a lie. You can draw. Anyone can draw. Even if you're not a draftsman.
She's talking about stick figures, baby. If
figures,
you
draw
can't
stick
draw, do it in stick figures, just so that you figure out how you're positioning the angles.
Some of that is like, it's gonna help you figure out, like, page turn rules. Like, when you're laying out your comic, how much action can you fit on a page? How much action can you fit in a panel? How much dialogue can you fit in a panel? Like, what's like, how many emotional beats can you hit on a page comfortably? It's going to help you write your scripts. It's going to help you write better, and it's going to help you understand everything that goes into a comic. So if you're not an artist and you want to write comics, draw a comic, even if it's only like a 20-page or a 10-page short. It's going to really help you just figure out your style of writing.
And if you're an artist, try and write something too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So in the community, so like amongst
work with a writer,
or just call me.
Right. Right. So amongst like the community, the comic community, there's this show called Lame or Frame. And I was recently on it, and we were drawing 90s image characters. This won, and we were told to draw the grifter. So Becky, when you say people can, say people can draw, and this is what I came up with as my grifter, I have a hard time believing I can turn that into something that's 23 pages.
But everyone knew right away that was grifter, though, right?
Yeah.
I drew a pizza slice on his head and gave him 2 guns. With a nice little negative space variant.
I mean, that tracks.
I mean,
I know those are hot right now, but yeah. So, and again, like,
let me see that comment that just popped up.
Oh, this is from the New Zealand friend, not Australia. New Zealand.
Absolutely, V. Absolutely.
For sure.
Like,
part of the great thing about literature is being able to step inside someone else's story, and there's so much available. There's no excuse to not be reading.
Right. Yeah. And I do want to touch on this a little bit because we kind of have to. Becky, you're the first female to write in the main Batman title. I even have your signature on my Batman 50. Can you shed some light on that experience from that? Because I know I asked you at GalaxyCon, but yeah, you drew it.
I was filling in for Greg Capullo on Batman issue 12 in the Court of Owls. I almost said no. I almost turned the job down because I was busy. I was like, I have too much to do. I'm moving. I think I had to do I was doing Heroes Con that month. I was just like, I have too much to do. I can't do it. And then they're like, come on, please. And I was like, okay, fine. And I remember talking to a friend of mine. A friend of mine was like, you can't turn down Batman. And I was like, I can do whatever the hell I want. And he's like, you have to draw Batman. And I was like, you're right. I have to draw. It's Batman. I got to draw it. So going into it, if it's like, oh, I'm the first woman to draw on the main title, that was never like a thing for me, I guess. I just went into it thinking like, oh, it's another job. So I get to draw Batman. That's cool. I was mostly worried about filling in for Greg Capullo because I was such a big fan of his art. And I was like, he's going to hate it. He's gonna hate my art. But then he really liked it, and we met, and he's super sweet, so that was nice.
Capilla's awesome.
Yeah, he's a sweetheart.
Capullo's awesome. Except for my first experience with Greg Capullo, there's this dude who was behind me, and he tried to get in front of me when I was bringing Capullo myself to take a sign. I want to talk to him. This dude behind me is like ripping on behind me, like just trying to get in front of me, throwing his stuff, and Capullo's like just completely said, "Just go to David Finch. He has no line," and just
see, my
so much shade.
He's like, just go to David Finch. No one's with him right now. Just give me
the one thing I remember about Capullo isn't even like mainly Capullo. Like I remember him being super cool, but beforehand, I remember Mark Silvestri coming up to his table, like going behind his table before he showed up and was like, "I'm Greg Capullo and y'all are a bunch of a-holes."
Love him.
I remember the dude before me was like, "Oh my gosh, I love your Batman." It was the first time I heard your name. He's like, "Did you not read Spawn or X-Force? Do you not know who I am?" And I'm just like, dude. And he's just chilling there with his shades on. I'm just like, I'm in for a treat. And I'm next.
Those 90s artists have no chill whatsoever.
No.
He's also like, there's no, like, not many artists can do what he does. Like, how many issues of Batman has he drawn consecutively? Like, the man is a workhorse, and he draws the hell out of every page.
And he draws from a pretty meager script. And that's not because that's the way that Scott Snyder was writing. It's the way that Greg prefers to work, is don't break up the panels, don't do too much describing. So he's really a strong contributor to every project he's on. So big respect to Greg Capullo and his giant biceps.
And his electric guitar.
And his electric guitar.
All of them.
When I first met him, he was like, "Oh, nice to meet you." Like, super cool, gregarious, kind. But he was also, I could tell, like, he was his heart and mind were somewhere else. And I thought it was because they were about to do a Batman panel. So I'm just like, all right, man. Like, I went over here and like BS'd with somebody else. I heard him on the phone. I guess like he was getting his porch fixed, and the people that he had hired to fix his porch while he was out of town were like fucking up his siding or something. So he's on the phone, like, giving him an ear beating, and then immediately he's out on stage being like, "Yeah, I draw Batman. Like, what's good?" And I was like, that is a guy with a lot on his plate, baby.
Yeah.
A lot on his plate.
And Bryce, the reason why 90s artists are in such a bad mood because they grew up with Neil Adams, who is the king of the king of shade on people.
Oh, man.
Not Rob Liefeld. Neil Adams will shit on everyone. I was gonna say Rob Liefeld because I have an experience with that, but
I love that. I love that Becky Cloonan Batman black and white statue too. I got one right over there.
Yeah, there it is.
It's expensive, but I loved it.
That was cool.
Haven't
I don't
bought the
know.
kit yet.
I don't know. I have a Nightwing one, but I
what's
think
that
this.
Oh,
I think it's a Jim Lee.
It's
a Jim Lee. It's just a
yeah.
minifig. It's a mini statue, but
I've got a
The
Wonder
black and
Woman
whites are
one
sweet.
right over there.
Yeah.
To look at it sometimes.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But-
Speaking of, you were talking earlier about like advice for being a writer. One thing I've always wondered, I've heard about like couples working together and also living together and how that can sort of mesh. I wonder how does your writing Wonder Woman and your Midnighter and everything, like, are you guys at home and all of a sudden you'll look at each other and it's like this?
Light bulb.
Pretty much, yeah.
Sometimes. Well, geez. We'll take walks and do a lot of like hashing stuff out on a walk. Because it's easy to think when you're out and about, I guess.
There isn't like TV and stuff to distract you. You're just like stuck. Thank you. You're having a great discussion too.
In the chat.
I'm awkward as hell. Hi, thanks. Yeah, we'll go on a walk and there's less distraction, and we'll know almost immediately. I'll have a bunch of ideas. that's just the way that I'm geared, is to immediately be like, oh, what about this? What about this? And I'll spit them out, and the minute they come out of my mouth, Becky will have like a reinterpretation of it that will almost look nothing like the thing that I initially said, but it'll have enough of the characteristics that I'll feel like I was involved. And then I'll work on a draft based on that conversation. I'll shoot it over her way. And what she does is she gets in there and she sands it. She works away at it and gets rid of the rest of the stuff that involved my ideas.
So everything that Michael loves about Wonder Woman is completely from Becky, and Michael's just giving her the idea.
Becky's like, don't
We
worry,
know
your
a lot
name will
about
still be on the book.
We go back and forth. Everything's a conversation.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of like talking about different ideas, characters we want to use. Like Michael's got 5,000 ideas every day. Like he's an idea guy, and I'm not that way. I have like one idea that
Tunnel vision.
Maybe I have tunnel vision.
It's an ongoing conversation. And at the end of it, it's so funny because we'll get the comps and I'll read it again as if I'm reading it for the first, like on the week that it comes out. I want to read it again so that I'll imagine someone out in the public reading it and see the things that they see and feel the things that they feel. And I'll sometimes be like, damn, that's a good ass line. And I'll go to Becky and I'll be like, thank you. Like, there's no way I wrote this line. She'll be like, fool, like you wrote that part. And I won't remember because the ego dies a horrible death in the creative process when you're working with somebody that you love, especially. You're constantly seeing these things. You got this beautiful baby that you see the world, like you're going to grow up and you're going to be everything that I wish to be. And then it turns into a weird troll that you don't recognize. But damn, it's cool, and you forget that you even played a role in creating this like weird golem that's running around.
But it's a Wonder Woman comic, so.
But it's a Wonder Woman comic.
It's so sick. The creative process when done really well, and it's not just us collaborating. There's like the editors are due like a great. Like people don't talk about editors enough, I think. Editors are super important. A strong editor will make a good book great, and a crappy editor will make a good book absolutely unreadable.
Right, or let things slide through the cracks.
We're lucky to have who we've got.
Yeah,
and
our editors are great. They will ask a lot of questions. They'll make us think more about the story that we're telling.
It feels irritating sometimes.
I
don't want to explain myself.
Becky's like, I love it.
You'll put something in there that maybe you think makes sense, but then they'll be like, but why does this happen? And you're like, oh, because they asked that question. Now I am thinking about like all of a sudden your brain goes in like these 10 different directions of like where this one question can lead you can be very important things down the road. So
right. And Michael, you said you have 1,000. I
was just gonna in closing, in terms of like talking about collaborating with someone, it's hard sometimes. Sometimes we bicker, but it's become less frequent. I think like we've just figured out the stuff that's precious to each other.
And it's also like you get used to like you have to get used to working with someone new. So it's like, even if we're like partners in life, it's like to learn how to be a collaborative, creative partner with someone, you have to like get to know how they work. So like originally, I have the type of person who will like throw like 5 or 6 different ideas out there, and they might not be good, but it's just kind of like to see where an idea will lead you. And Michael he's a literalist. Like you said before, sometimes he would think that idea is the one that I'm like going with. And I'm like, no, that's just an idea that we don't have to do it at all. It's just like,
but you said you wanted it to happen.
But it's like, where is that going to take you? So it's just a matter of like learning how does the other person work. Like, and trying not to step on each other's toes and figuring out a system that works for us.
But yeah, Becky did say that I believe she said 1,000 ideas a day?
5,000.
5,000 ideas in a day. Of those ideas, a very, very small fraction are good.
You know what, Michael?
Ideas are trash.
All those ideas, a story that needs 1,000 different ideas is a Green Lantern book, so I'm expecting one in 2 years.
Green Lantern might be the most difficult character.
I would love for you to write.
I could write a Green Lantern book that would blow your wig back. I imagine there's a pretty good line to get to Green Lantern. Right now, DC is doing that poll thing about like which book to get through. And I think Green Lantern might be like somewhere in the
yeah,
like
it was Cena Grace's Green Lantern, I think it was.
Yeah, it's green. It's like got Kilowog in it.
Yeah, it was Cena Grace. Yep.
So I'd love to see him.
Right.
I'd love to see him. I mean, I think it's like down to him and Tim Seeley for writers.
Ooh.
Which it's like, dang, that's two.
That's two great writers, you know. And not Tim Seeley. Cena Grace is another friend of the show, so always love supporting him. Except I'm not partaking in the voting because I just want to see it play out.
I didn't vote either, and I hate to admit that, but I don't agree with running that type of campaign.
Yeah, no, I think it's like stressful.
It's not my scene.
I would feel really bad if I was like, I know I wouldn't do well in a campaign like that.
I think I voted in round 1. I don't remember what I voted for, and I kind of forgot about it afterwards. Like it came back
voted for the Holiday Girls, baby.
Well, they're not promoting it.
Holiday Girls thing on there. Yeah.
What?
Right,
and I didn't vote.
Right, and DC's not promoting it that much. It's like it's followed under the radar of like everything they're trying to do right now with Infinite Frontier,
it's kind of
all these other books. So, yeah,
I think if you ran around talking about it a lot, more people might be critical of it. You know, I think it's cool. Like I suspect like there might be more going on than meets the eye, but for me, like my heart wouldn't survive something like that. I would.
Oh, 100%.
Feel sad for however. I would hope that I was knocked out of the round robin immediately, so that my heart would not be long in breaking. Yeah. I'm not gonna beat a Robin's book or whatever. Sorry.
We already have one though.
Yeah, we got books. We're good.
So what was your guys' inspiration into comics? Like, who was the people that you grew up reading? What gravitated towards both you guys?
For me, the earliest comic I read was a Silver Surfer comic. Yeah. It was like an annual from like 1988 or something.
Okay.
And it was great. I loved it, and I loved every character. And my favorite character was Mantis, and then I also loved Nova, and those were my favorite characters. I was terrified of Galactus. These were the 3 tenets of my Silver Surfer. Everything I know about Silver Surfer. The thing that I loved about that book when I got a little bit older to understand it was like the Kree Skrull stuff, like the political and like ramifications of that crazy war that they had, and then the romance, of course, between Norrin Radd and Shalabal was like my other big thing. So I guess that I love it. Yeah, I still love Silver Surfer.
There you go. But Stan Lee would be very proud of you.
I was a Marvel girl 100%. Like I loved X-Men, I loved Excalibur, like I loved anything Claremont touched. I was like on board. Uncanny X-Men I read, and then I got into manga, and I was like 100% into Muruka Takahashi. We just got the
that old thing.
Yeah, we just got the Mace of Cuckoo, like the re-release of like the first book. Blade of the Immortal by Hiroaki Samura was like another big one that I got super into, like reading. Clamp was like Magical Knight Ray Earth and Cardcaptor Sakura, and like all these was like big nerd for all this stuff.
There you go.
Yeah, and that was like a huge thing for me because it was like a whole, when I discovered manga, it was like, oh, there's a whole country of women who draw comics and who write comics. And
what a gross misunderstanding, though. The entire country of Japan is not populated by female mangaka.
Yeah.
There's all different types of people living in Japan.
Right.
But in the US market, there was like maybe 5 women that you would see on the shelf every month. So it was like, I went from someone who thought like, oh, I could never draw comics for a living, to all of a sudden very quickly my 13-year-old brain being like, I'm going to move to Japan to draw manga. That's what I'm going to do.
Or you could have could have dreamed you could be just like Innocenti drawing Daredevil or writing Daredevil in that time period. So
Yeah, it just didn't. It wasn't like a place that I could see myself.
right.
As like a young artist being like, I don't know if I fit in drawing comics, even though I was drawing, like, I would draw comics all the time in school, but
Well, I think you're in part responsible for a wave of artists that are influenced by manga coming to prominence.
there was a lot
I think
like
Becky
at the
was a
time,
big part of what changed a certain element of Western art. So
Well,
kudos to you.
it wasn't me, I don't think, but I think a lot
No,
of people
you're-
like
you're
my
part of
age
it. Come
who, like,
on.
when manga became like Viz was publishing like a bunch of monthly books and Dark Horse too, there's like a more it was like more accessible at a certain time. And I
Right.
think there were a lot of people who grew up like being really influenced by Japanese comics, and I was like
Right.
part of that. So it was like pretty exciting.
Right.
So humble.
Yeah, she's so
part of a
humble.
wave of
Yeah.
creators, of influential creators, because now Becky's been in the game long enough that there's pros that have grown up influenced by the work that she's done.
Just mind blowing.
Yeah, it's pretty
Right.
wild. But
Yeah.
I mean, people's creative life in Genuine begins maybe at age 7, and so within 10 years they're an adult. So in 10 years' time, you have been a huge fundamental force in somebody's creative trajectory, and what a beautiful
Right.
what a beautiful power. For me, I had like a couple comics growing up. Like there was one particular Fantastic Four that I had. It must have been a reprint, but it was like Fantastic Four 64 or something like that, where it was the first appearance of Adam Warlock, but he was just called Him in it, and he
Right.
came out of a cocoon, and it was Jack Kirby, and so freaking bizarre that I was like, I love this. Like, a man came out of a cocoon. That's the only thing I remember from the whole book. It's like, look at this. A man walked out of a cocoon. That's all I can remember from. I owned that, and I had a Batman book in which the Riddler, like, this was dark. It had a Mike Mignola cover, and the Riddler, like, stuffed something in a baby's mouth, and Batman had to create a trach in the baby. I was like, yo, I've never seen this type of thing before. I gotta do this myself. I'm gonna have somebody come out of a cocoon. I'm gonna
Give a baby a
give a
treat.
baby a trach.
Oh, so instead of
I
someone
just
coming
couldn't-
out of cocoon, you just had him coming out of a snake.
Well, an egg inside the
Put
snake.
an
egg inside of a
They put it in
snake.
the cocoon, basically.
So I became kind of like enamored with comics' ability to be weird. Yeah, it is Dark City.
There you go.
I've been. Is that collected in a trade? I'm gonna buy that right after this.
Just tell them you need it for reference and have them send
Hey,
it.
what's
Yeah.
going on, newbie comics?
Yeah,
How
let's
you
get
doing?
with it.
Yeah, I haven't. I don't think I've read that, but I've seen it. And I'm like, I just did a segment last week of just villains that suck, and one of them was the Riddler because we haven't gotten a
You're
good Riddler
high.
costume. No,
That's
because-
what I
Are you
said.
sniffing glue
That's
over
what
there?
I
No,
said.
my thing is because we haven't
Yes.
gotten no. Look, I love the past 3 artists that have drawn Riddler. I just don't like the way they draw Riddler. I like the way they draw everyone else, but Riddler. I think Mike
feel
Mignola.
you.
Yeah,
If I get a minute with the Riddler, I would change certain things about him.
Is it time for a Riddler songs? A Riddler
Yes.
renaissance?
You know what? I'm okay with that as long as you don't do a question mark in the middle of the chest. Him looking like a leprechaun from Zero Year. I love you, Greg Capullo, but not that. And what Gilliam March did, where he looked like he was combined with Scarface and Two-Face merged to create whatever's left of the Riddler. I'm sorry, I didn't like it, but
Yeah, I've always loved the Riddler.
my own thing.
I love the Riddler. Like, I love what he stands for. It's just I'm so distracted by the way he's drawn.
And Matt Reeves, the Batman's coming out next year. So, Michael, if you just want to jump on the Riddler, be very timely.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I'm worried about is I've seen the trailers, and I had a friend shoot me a text. I used to, rather than do this professionally, I would just hang out with my friends and like drink a couple bubbly waters and talk about comic books that I would love to stories I would love to tell. And hot damn if that trailer didn't seem an awful lot like the Riddler that I'd love to see. Like I said, I had a friend text me and be like, "They're doing it. They're doing the Riddler that you talked about." So yeah, they might beat me to it, but I'll still mess around with the Riddler, given the opportunity.
There you go.
Put a big question mark on his chest, make him look like a leprechaun.
Red flat top, you know.
Oh man! Which speaking of
Chris Claremont, yeah, just recently. Here's our biggest Chris Claremont fan. But next to Becky, of course, right now. But
I could take a number 2 spot. I don't mind.
nah. Oh man! But yeah. Speaking of characters that you would like to work on, what is your guys' dream character, dream book that you would like to write? That's
independently or as a partnership?
Anything.
Let's do both. Let's do both.
Yeah, let's do both. Let's do both.
Let's see. I think. Well, I already said so. I would do a great Norrin Rad Shalabal romance epic, space romance epic comic.
Oh yeah.
Maybe like it wouldn't be a Silver Surfer book. It would just be like just a romance book in space. So I guess it doesn't even have to be Norrin Rad and Shalabal. It could just be whoever. But you know,
kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, it would be better if it was. That would be cool. I've always had this idea that I want Michael to do. It's the it's the Three Musketeers, but they all have Green Lantern rings.
No, I don't even know why she's talking. I don't know why she's talking about this. This is actually a brilliant idea. If I see this happen, I'm going to fly to somebody's house and slap them in real life. Don't steal this. But imagine Green Lanterns, but it's swashbuckling.
They've all got different rings, like Cardinal Richelieu has the red ring.
Oh my god.
Three Musketeers, Green Lantern mashup.
I don't know why I'm laughing.
But the rings are like in their swords.
They got them on their hand, and it like goes, it's like their swords are like glowing, and they choo.
And the sword can grow a weird boxing glove and punch you in the face.
They're all French.
Yes. Yeah. And they would all have like different rings from the emotional spectrum. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Like,
yeah. They'd have the hats.
Yeah.
Porthos would have the blue ring.
That wouldn't be my first pick to do.
I want Michael to do it. I don't want to do this. I
would do it. I would do it with you.
Something about it like tickles me.
Yeah.
So we can have
someone do it. So I keep telling Michael, I'm like, Michael, is this a great idea? What if check this out.
Our hot water heater, I think it broke earlier today. And I'm getting worried that it's like seeping gas.
There's no gas.
And Becky's losing it right now. If she thinks I'm gonna.
Oh man.
I would like to.
I have the natural gas over here.
I would love to do. I mean, I would love to do Swamp Thing at some point. We already kind of used Swamp Thing a little bit in Immortal Wonder Woman, but it wasn't a Swamp Thing story. I'd love to do an Animal Man story. I think Animal Man is like ripe to have something done with him.
You want to do a Riddler story?
Yeah, the Riddler. Like, I'll put the Riddler in something.
I got a good artist, and I'm on board.
I'm trying to think of like outside of DC. I'm not like such like an absolute DC guy, but I think for me, when I think of iconic characters, I tend to gravitate toward DC. I don't know why. It must have been just like the comics that I had in my collection growing up. For Marvel, of course, I'd love to write a mutant book at some point. Specifically, there's a mutant called Forget-Me-Not, who, like, his whole power is like if you stop looking at him for a few seconds, you completely forget about him. So the story is about him being there throughout all of these big X-Men adventures, but he just never makes it into the comic because they forget about the role that this character played in fighting Mr. Sinister or fighting Armageddon.
That's such a good idea.
So it's like you're retelling all these important X-Men stories, but from the perspective of this forgotten, super crucial, important character. Something would go right, like, oh, this door is unlocked, thank goodness. not realizing that he's like crawling through vent shafts and doing all this stuff, and like
So,
he's the one who unlocked the door. Kind
You
of
have a
thing.
crazy Forge story too.
Oh yeah, I'd love to tell
Oh,
the Forge
Forge,
story
yes.
about Forge building a giant like. We just find out what Forge has been up to for years and years. He's been missing, and when we find him, I'll introduce you to this thing that he's built. But I don't
When
want to
Hickman
say
wants to
this
use
thing
him in
because if it
Krakoa.
happens, it'll be sick.
Just let
Forge-
Hickman get him back into Krakoa, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Man,
That's awesome. That's
doing a
awesome,
Savage
man.
Land story would be great, actually.
Oh my, a Khazar
too.
story, or Khazar, however you pronounce his name. That'd be awesome.
That was my original Punisher pitch. Was actually the Punisher in the Savage Land. I was like, Punisher's in the Savage Land, and he has to like fight his way through this giant
Right.
pyramid of savagery, and he gets to the top,
That's
and he
awesome.
becomes like King Conan at the Savage Land. He's all like,
You know
"Oh,"
it.
but
Oh
like,
man.
they were like, "Can we make it a little more like normal Punisher?"
Oh,
I was like,
but
Hi,
hello,
Kaylee.
Hey.
"Kaylee,
hello. Oh, you guys know Kaylee.
we
Yeah.
do. Kaylee's a sweetheart. She's a good
Kaylee
friend.
was at GalaxyCon as well, right? Yeah. So in a way, we were all together at one point.
There we go. Yeah, Michael. When we were talking beforehand, like you were like, "Yeah, you probably ran into me." I'm like, I don't know. And you're like, I was just a dude with the muscles. I was just there. I'm just like,
I was just like, there was like a beautiful like male model looking dude sitting around. No, I actually get that a lot. I have people who will at first be like, I don't know that we've ever met, and then they'll be like, oh no, we have met. You're the dude who looks like that guy in The Hangover. And I'll be like, oh yeah, Bradley Cooper? Sick. Thanks, bud.
there we go. There we go. And Steven says, what is your favorite thing about working on Wonder Woman?
It's my favorite thing about it.
Working on it with Becky, right? That's a good answer.
No,
I was
no,
waiting
I
for him
mean,
to say that. It's just...
no, I don't think that's my favorite thing. I think my favorite thing is it's such a rarefied position. You know, it's something that not many people could hope to ever do in a lifetime. And in that way, it's very dreamlike, and it's very, I'm just super thankful to have the opportunity and to be able to play with one of the most important icons that exist in Western culture. Is a huge, huge honor, and one that I don't ever take for granted, and I'm trying to enjoy every moment of it. So my favorite part is just being in this moment and sharing this moment with people that appreciate the book and that appreciate the character.
Right. That
My favorite thing about Wonder Woman is like all the stuff that we're going to get to. I think the stuff that we're working on right now is super fun, and it's always going to be fun. But when you have a story like this that has so much potential and so many different like cool ideas that come to you like every day, we have a new idea. It's always thinking about like, oh, this next thing that we're going to work on, like that's going to be so cool. And it's really exciting to work on a story where the person you're working with is super excited, and you just keep on thinking of like the next big thing that you're going to do.
right,
And it's,
right.
like, it just, you can see for miles and it all looks great. So it's great to be on a book where the ideas just keep coming and it just feels right. Everything about this book feels right.
Oh yeah.
Right.
So it's like, and some of that is like, when you read the book, I hope people feel that like we're having a great time working on it. And like, I hope that comes across when people read it. Like,
We take it super serious. It's a job, like for sure. This is work. Like this is not easy to do.
No.
People dream of doing this. I dreamed of doing it, and I'm doing it. And I'll tell you what, I've thought about quitting a bunch of times because it's really damn hard and it's really taxing. But on the same hand, like what dream isn't like that? You know, we all like, it always seems like, oh, if I could just do this, I'll be happy. But there's always like, you hit that peak and you see another hill on the other side. So that's kind of like where we're living right now, is like working really hard every day, like trying to push that big rock up the hill, knowing it's just going to tumble back down, and trying to enjoy the process of it. So love making comics. Would be doing it whether people were reading it or not, whether it was Wonder Woman or just doing it with my friends at Kinko's, which I continue to do to this day.
Right.
Like you can check out mysteryschool.bigcartel.com. We like make our own zines all the time. Like go check them out if you want to read some weird stuff.
There you go.
For
And
sure.
that's really well said, you know, and you guys are putting out a fantastic story. It's definitely a page turner. It's something different, which I think if you have an 80-year-old character, you have to do, you know, if you're just doing shit on repeat, excuse my language, it gets a little bit boring. You know, it's a great story, and it's really like taking what's important about this character and expanding it, you know. And again, for people like Bryce and I who have never really enjoyed Wonder Woman, or because I'm going to be very honest, I haven't enjoyed her. I've kept tabs on her, but I haven't really like. I feel like there were a lot of missed moments. This is like, or like she's chasing some guy, and it's something that like I don't want to see her character do. This is everything I want from Wonder Woman at her core.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
Um,
Wonder Woman's
absolutely.
difficult because she's been a symbol for so long.
Right.
I think some of that is like you put her on this pedestal because she has been a feminist symbol. Even like the logo itself is like, it represents so much. So I think some of that is being able to humanize her and to give her like, you know, flaws. And
People will say like, "Oh, Wonder Woman wouldn't say that." It's like,
you can tell me what Wonder Woman's going to say.
just because Wonder Woman hasn't said it doesn't mean that she hasn't just started being able to speak like a regular person every now
Well,
and then.
you put her on Asgard, she can do whatever the hell she wants.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is that, you know, it's how you speak in front of other people. How do you speak in front of a crowd, or how do you speak when you're hanging out with your friends? You know,
Right.
or like playing Warzone.
In a job interview versus when you're screaming at your friends playing Warzone and they miss the drop or something. You know, like there's different ways of communicating, and we're trying to show that Diana is more than just somebody who's like, oh, we have hope and freedom and joy,
And there is that.
There's that.
But there's also like, you know, to humanize a character that I think creators are sometimes scared of humanizing, or, you know, maybe editorial at the time would be like a little nervous to show different parts of who she is. But yeah,
we're gonna keep pushing it. We're gonna keep trying to. Thank you, Kaylee. We're gonna keep trying to humanize her, but we're also gonna have these really dramatic moments, hopefully, where anyone that wants to question if we're capable of stentorian speech or making somebody speak using language that seems fitting of a god woman, we'll most certainly do that too. And I think we've shown it in other characters. So give us some space. Give us a break, man.
Right.
Yeah, just let them do their thing. Like, come on, guys.
Come on. Just give us some money. Come on.
Just give us your money and enjoy the ride.
Oh, you don't enjoy the book? You don't enjoy just give us money.
Just put it in the car.
I'll put my PayPal right here, bottom of the screen. Don't worry about the book. Just send me money. Whatever.
Right.
You can get rid of me. You can buy me off.
We got 2 cats to feed.
Yeah, come on. This litter ain't gonna pay for itself. They poop a lot, man. A lot.
They poop like men. These cats.
Bryce, you want a cat? What's that?
I do have a cat. She's 14 and very opinionated and eats a lot. So
love it.
Nice. What's her name?
Her name's Precious. I named her that when I was 7.
Love it. That's beautiful.
That is precious.
There you go. That is precious. There you go. My precious.
Funny that I hadn't seen Lord of the Rings by that point, but it fits perfectly.
Yeah. You know, we were speaking about Gollum earlier, and we're sitting right next to one.
Yeah. He hadn't seen Lord of the Rings yet, but he was a big fan of Tyler Perry's movie Precious.
Oh.
Which he watched on repeat, which was strange for a child to do, but he did it.
There you go.
I'm saying that he didn't do that, but I'm saying he did do it.
There you go.
I will neither confirm nor deny that.
There you go. And I always like to ask this question. I didn't get to do it at the last interview, but I'll do it now. If you guys could team up with an artist you've never worked with before, who would it be?
Tim Sale.
Tim Sale.
Yeah.
100%. That's
I
awesome.
would love to do a book with Tim Sale.
Long Halloween fans enter the chat.
Yeah, he's so good.
Right here.
I love his use of black and white. I think his storytelling is like always on point. His like draftsmanship, like I don't know, his comics, the way he draws is like compelling.
Right.
Yeah.
For me, I'm not gonna say who I would have said a few months ago, because we had mentioned that we've got some fill-in artists coming up for Wonder Woman. The person that I would have said is going to be doing a Wonder Woman issue, and I've already seen a little bit of the art, and it's out of control, and I'm so
It's so good.
I'm so geeked off of it. But I always, anytime an editor asks me, "Oh, who should we get to work on the book?" This isn't the person who's filling in. I always say, "Can we get Sam Keith on the book?" Sam Keith, legendary artist of the Max.
Yep, the Max. I drew a Max on lamer frame, and it didn't look so good, but okay.
Did it look like an upside down pizza and two other pizzas with his fingers?
Yeah, no, it didn't look like.
Just drop pizzas?
No, it didn't have a negative space either.
I'm sure it looks great. Either way, I'm just such a huge Sam Keith fan. I love it. I would love to do like another thing in like Gotham with him, but if it had to be for a publisher, but if it was like something of my own design, I think Sam Keith would be like a perfect artist for me to work with. He's so just out of pocket and strange and multimedia, and anyone that's familiar with my own work outside of DC probably sees that I'm like hugely influenced by him and the dream worlds that he creates on the page. I just love his work. Sam Keith, if you're out there, I got your email, man, but I'm never gonna email you probably because I'm afraid.
Hey, shoot your shot. You never know what's gonna come on, and it's the same way with writing Wonder Woman. That you've kind of said the whole time. If you're gonna do something, go balls to the wall, and so do the same thing with Sam Keith. If you ever want to do some of the images, yeah, email Tim.
Email Tim Sale
and see if he can even do a variant cover. I think even if he does a variant cover, I think you're still so satisfied with that. So. Here's a cool question. We always gotta have an excellent question. You know?
Okay. Who is my favorite X-Men?
There is a right answer.
She better not lie. I know who her favorite
Gambit.
Yes.
She did not say. I'm so happy you did not say Cyclops.
Gambit. Gambit aside,
the Gambit that you know today is very different from the Gambit that we knew.
I'm also gonna say. More than just Gambit, though, and Madeline Pryor wasn't. I mean, she was like on the X-Men team for a bit. I am like 100% Madeline Pryor sympathizer. I would. Oh yeah, Kaylee's got my back. Kaylee knows what I'm talking about. But Madeline Pryor is one of my favorite characters. I think she was like wronged so hard.
Right.
And if I could go back and do an X-Men book, it would be like a Madeline Pryor like. Revenge story.
We do this thing all the time where it's like, what would your X-Men team be? And every time it's a little bit different, but there's certain constant characters.
Jubilee's on it, 100%. Jubilee's
on there we go.
We had an X-Men pitch that we never put together.
Really.
We never pitched it, but it would be sick. I don't know enough about what's going on with mutants right now to feel comfortable about pitching it. But
I haven't.
Maybe at some point
kept
down
up
the road.
Everything
is
going on with mutants.
Right. I think if you're not on the mutant bandwagon right now and you've subbed on it for 2 years, you're not getting on now. You're gonna read it. You're gonna binge it later. Kind of like if you never started with The Walking Dead, you're not gonna go back and read all 2,000 compendiums. You're gonna just go watch the show.
I don't know. I'm a strange cat. I recently got into this book called Monster. It's a manga book. Name of the creator?
Ursawa.
is it or
I
so?
think so.
I got them in the other room, and it's like
I think
volume.
it's
It's like 10 or 15 volumes of like thick boys. Like, so
That might only be 8.
I show up late. What?
I said it might only be 8.
No.
Maybe. No, it's more. 15.
Why are you trying to punk me
I'm
on
sorry.
the live ComixKings show?
Yeah,
Trying to punk me?
yeah.
It's big.
This is the show where you eat, sleep, and watch ComixKings. You don't do anything else.
That's what we do. ComixKings and Hillbilly Comics.
Yeah, there we go.
It's weird that you're a member of royalty and then poor Bryce. Oh, who's my favorite? I was gonna say poor Bryce doesn't get to be royalty in any kind of way. Like
there's a
Duke or
long
something?
there's a
I'm a
long
king.
story.
I'm in my own right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a long story of like the history of Comics King. There's originally me and my other friend, who I've known since high school, and he's no longer part of the brand. So it's been like I've been running this whole show
Stop being
solo.
friends.
Well, we're still friends. It's just he's doing his
guys
other
fought?
stuff. No, we had
Physically?
different. If
You choked him? You killed the other Comics King?
Whoa, he left. it's this whole.
It's like the Sith. It's like the Sith rule of 2. The apprentice has to kill the master.
Yeah.
No, it was more like he stopped
We're like
reading.
Highlander.
Yeah, he like stopped reading comics except for like Miles Morales, and he like I don't know. It was like during when we were both taking a break. It was at the height of death metal, Joker War, 3 Jokers, and Empire. We were all like we just took a break from events because it was like too much. And we were also like doing school, and when I wanted to come back, he didn't, and he said like he didn't love comics, he only loved Miles Morales, so he left. And there's like, and I was like, but there's so much
You were a
more.
Comic King?
So
You took the crown away?
so also
You
he
snatched
it
the
was like
crown.
yeah, it was this whole thing because he also didn't want to move over to YouTube. We were doing stuff from IGTV, so he kind of was like running solo since. I've been running solo since January, doing YouTube since April. I started YouTube in April,
Right.
so that's just like a 30-second history. So it was. I mean, we still talk every day. We're still very close. It's
We
just
still talk with the pretender. The pretender to the
so
throne.
yeah. I have two friends that are helping me out. You guys know Bryce. He's the weekly wrap-up co-host where we talk about stuff like Wonder Woman on whenever it comes out. So you'll see that on the Friday show.
Oh yeah.
And then I do a show called Hall of Fame or Hall of Shame where we take 2 issues under the same theme and we go over which one's in the Hall of Fame, which is the Hall of Shame. That's run with my friend Ryan, who's a huge Grant Morrison fan.
That's the only room for things.
So
It's like 2 halls.
Listen.
No, there are 3 halls. There's the Hall of Fame, the Hall of Shame, and the Halls of Medicine.
And then there's the halls of game.
There we go.
Yeah,
I gotta ask my favorite mutant, and I'm gonna answer that because that's a really good question. That's a question that I think about almost every day. Yeah, my favorite X-Man. I already mentioned Forget Me Not, which I say that's the one that I want to write. I think my favorite. I liked Warlock a lot. Warlock, who's now I don't know, is Warlock dead still? I just remember when I was a kid, Warlock died during Extinction Agenda, and it messed me up. That was one of the few like full runs that I had for whatever reason. I must have got it at a flea market or something. And when Warlock died, I was hurt. It harmed me. So
Warlock is still in comics. Yep.
If they brought him back, then he's not my favorite anymore.
Well, they're all on Krakoa. They're all on Krakoa now. So it's like everyone got revived because that's something that Hickman is pushing is you can come back now on Krakoa in this whole.
Pryor there?
They teased something about her. Like I know she came up once in like conversation. I believe it was like Emma Frost talking about it, and it was like I know that she's lingering around somewhere. It's just there are still like so many mutants that Hickman he's used about everyone, and he's if they haven't been used so far, it means he has a plan for them. So I have a feeling that Madeline Pryor is gonna show up one day or another. But Warlock was just using 10 of Swords. He was Cypher's sword. He turned himself into a sword, and Cypher used him in this whole bombastic event. It was really cool. So if you
He's not my favorite X-Men anymore. I take it back.
you know what? Anyone but Cyclops. I'm okay. Anyone but Cyclops.
I don't have a favorite anymore.
Yeah,
It
you
seems
do.
like they ruined everything. I'm just kidding.
What about those weird Savage Land
Well, of
mutants?
course, no, I'm not
Like
into
Worm or
Savage
Vertigo
Land, no,
or like
it ain't for me.
Sauron.
The Savage
Sauron.
Land,
Yes. Have his first
that's
appearance.
not the one. I want Cameron Hodge. He's not an X-Men, but he was a bad guy. He was the bad guy in Extinction Agenda. He just looked like a mess. Every issue, he looked different. No one could draw him the same. He was like a man with a spider body and stuff. It was too much.
Oh my gosh. That reminds me of Tim Sale, because we were just talking about him earlier. That when I asked him about the Long Halloween and why they didn't use Poison Ivy as much as it looked like they were going to, he said, because I didn't want to draw her so every single page.
That's pretty straight up.
Baller.
I wrote something into a script that involved a bunch of chains. It was something that Becky and I are co-writing. And Becky was like, we're going to go ahead and we're going to change that to ropes because no artist wants to draw a bunch of chains.
Unless you're Todd McFarlane.
Unless you're Toddy Mac.
Toddy Mac.
The Todd father.
The Todd father for a reason.
The Todd father. Yeah, he'll draw the chains. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I would draw the
You know,
chains.
that's one of my things. If I go in a script, I think like, what would I, as an artist, what would I have trouble drawing? And if it's a bunch of chains, I'm like, I don't want to draw that. Change it to ropes.
Becky will never draw Ghost Rider. Sorry.
Never. It's not gonna happen. Change it to a rope.
Well, that just doesn't work.
I'm just picturing Ghost Rider with like a bunch of ropes now.
Yeah, I'm just doing that too. Like, wouldn't it disintegrate? Because like the chains are just like the metal heats up.
He's got magic lasso. It's the crossover event. Come on.
I was thinking,
It's
like, wouldn't it be cool if they like brought back Ghost Rider, but instead of riding a motorcycle or a lowrider, they had him ride a surfboard, and they made him silver. They made him love a woman in a doomed planet, and just call it Ghost Rider.
With the ropes.
Yeah, what's wrong with ropes?
So-
Ain't nothing wrong with ropes. We love it. But yeah,
I mean,
that's my pitch for
Donnie
Marvel.
Cates already turned Frank Castle into the Ghost Rider, so anything's possible.
We're doing it. We're gonna turn
You know
Ghost
what?
Rider
I'm
into
sorry,
Silver
but
Surfer. And
I've never
Ghost
really
Ride the Wave.
enjoyed Frank Castle as a character. I'm a really big Punisher fan, but Cosmic Ghost Rider, like, oh, that's so cool.
I would boot this man off his own channel.
I'd love for them to see my X-Men books, Brandon. Show them the way if they have any interest. Yeah, he's almost every X-Men book from the Claremont and Byrne era signed by Austin, Lee, Stanley, and
Dang.
Claremont. It's ridiculous.
In like ridiculously high grades too. It's insane.
He is the king of 9.6, 9.8 signatures. When he has a 9.2, he's like, here you go. And I'm just like, but it's double signed. You're really just gonna give me something signed by Chris Claremont and Bob McLeod? He's like, it's not 9.2, and I'm like, okay, I'll take
You're
it.
like, but I'm the king.
I'm like, I'll take it. I love it. But yeah, shout out to Chet though. He's the biggest X-Men fan, and even though he has everything slabbed, he knows everything that happened in that book. So, you know,
That's sick.
That's great. When we start writing X-Men, we're gonna give him a call for
Yeah, we'll make sure you get that.
and have your CGC rep right next to you, because
We got one
That's
actually
right.
here right now. Strangely, one just crawls out from under the couch.
it's our
I mean, you
So
said
we
you
all
were
try to
right
get
next to
something
Donnie
graded?
Cates.
One of your cats just morphs into a CGC rep out of nowhere.
All this
Oh
time.
my gosh! All this time, just a CDC. I mean, that's what happens when you live near Donnie Cates. You guys said so. I mean,
It's true. Living near Donnie is you never know what's gonna happen. You know, he might dye his hair. Did you see his new haircut?
yeah.
His new haircut.
I don't think I have yet.
Wow.
He posted on Instagram. I don't know.
It may have been a minute since
It's worth looking up.
I'm gonna go look it up and give it a like later.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's what I'll do tonight.
And you just right under the comment. Sent over by ComixKings. Check them out. But I think that just wraps about the whole conversation. We've been going for about an hour and 40 minutes. If you guys are late to the show and you're catching it live, thank you for catching the show live. If you've been here the whole time, big shout out to you guys. If you are catching the replay, also big shout out to you guys. It's been an honor to have Michael and Becky here. I was supposed to originally say like and subscribe to the channel. If you're here, I'm sure you have done that already, so make sure you guys do that. But more importantly, pre-order volume 1.
Hit the bell.
Yeah, hit the bell so you know when we go live.
Smash like, hit the bell, leave a comment down there.
Yeah.
Hey, who's your favorite X-Man?
Who's your favorite X-Men? And hashtag Ratatas.
Shout out Ratatas, always.
Yeah. Yeah, shout out to me and Sheena. Shout out to you two for being awesome. And shout out to Ratatosk. Hashtag Ratatosk in the comments below.
Shout out to my boy Rainbow Jeremy out in the Wardle. Love you, boo. Thinking of you. Shout out to Big Win. Little Stevie.
Yeah, shout out to everyone. Everyone gets a shout out.
Shout out to my man Bryce, the Hillbilly Comics, the ultimate. Boom.
Ultimate.
You're gonna make me blush, man. I'm not in the right lighting for this.
You guys are great. Thank
Bryce,
you so much for having us.
Yeah, this is a blast.
We'll do it again sometime, huh? Next time we'll just talk about books that we like. I'll tell you. I'll put you guys on some weird stuff that you never heard of.
I'm sure you will.
For sure.
You can tell me what I'm missing out on. You want to do that sometime?
Yeah. Anytime you guys are open guests. You want to say, hey, Brandon, we're coming on the show next week. I'll say, okay, Philip Kennedy Johnson, you're pushed back to June.
Let's do something where we just share, like, we'll go back and forth, like, oh, I got this one that you need to read, blah, blah,
there
blah.
You go.
Share some of our favorite stories that way.
I'll talk about manga.
Sounds like a blast.
There we go. That's hey, I'm sure that'll be awesome. I'm always down for that. Quick announcements for the channel. Tomorrow is Tag Team Thursday, so I'm live at 7:30. Tomorrow's theme is These Heroes Suck, because these villains suck, which I did last week was super cool, and no one liked it, so I'm doing it with heroes. Also, everyone liked it because I used the Puppet Master, and apparently that was a cool villain, and no one's was like, what? But we're doing that
tonight.
And then we have weekly wrap-up Friday live at 8 o'clock, your favorite comic book review show, where even if you're reading it, you can just sit there and nod your head, or if you're missing out, you can also just follow along. If we talk about 8 books that we read over the past week and just recap, review them, and discuss them, so that's a lot of fun. You'll see Bryce. And then on Saturday at 9 o'clock, Will Sportasio is going to be on the show for Creators Corner, which is a huge honor. We were talking X-Men, and
legend.
And Will Sportasio is
wow.
I don't think a lot of writers would be in the game today if it wasn't for Will's and his kind of clique of artists that said screw you Marvel and left. But and then
most underrated of the initial Image creators.
Yeah,
that dude
crazy talented.
Is super important to comics history.
100%. And then Philip Kennedy Johnson will be on, I believe, the 26th of May. Just confirmed that today, so that's a lot of fun. It's the same day Alien drops. Alien number 3 drops. Other than that, no other announcements. Bryce, what do you have going on?
Nothing much right now, man. I'm still, I'm just reading some books here and there, dropping some reviews on IGTV every now and then. Just trying to still, find my footing with what kind of content I want to create while consuming as many great books as possible.
There you go. And speaking of great books, kind of a segue, issue number 772 came out today. So if you guys have not grabbed it, it's definitely, if you weren't sold on the first 2 issues, which I don't know why you weren't, this one is definitely like the I'm all in book.
Yeah, this is my favorite issue of the run so far, guys.
So
thank you so much.
That's great.
Go buy it, guys. Go buy it. Go get the last 3 issues. Follow these 2 awesome people on Instagram. I put them in the description below. I also put the link to pre-order the first trade of Amazon on Amazon. But you can also do that by contacting your LCS. And that's really how we're going to keep supporting the books that we love. Tell your friends and pre-order your books and put them on your subscription list because it goes a long way. With that being said, thank you everyone for joining. This is Brandon.
And this is Bryce.
And that's Michael
and
Becky.
And that's Michael.
And that's Michael. So talk to you guys next time.
See you guys. Have a good one.
Bye.